We raised 4 children, put 4 kids through college, made 4 weddings. We had beautiful homes, and when we sold the homes, we gave Madoff the profit. So everything that we worked for is down the drain.
Bernie Madoff's name has become synonymous with financial fraud, embodying one of the most devastating Ponzi schemes in history. For over a decade, Madoff orchestrated a colossal scam that defrauded thousands of investors out of billions of dollars, leaving lives shattered and communities in despair. As the years have passed since his arrest in 2008, the arduous journey to restitution has been a beacon of hope for his victims. Today marks a significant milestone in this relentless pursuit of justice and recovery. After 15 years of meticulous effort by the U.S. Justice Department and the dedicated work of the Madoff Victim Fund, the final payouts are being distributed to the last of Bernie Madoff's victims. The rise and deception of Bernie Madoff's empire.
What he did was such a profound betrayal. A betrayal of people who called him their brother, their best friend. Bernie Madoff has hurt the Jewish community.
Bernard L. Madoff, a respected figure in the financial world, founded Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, LLC, in 1960. Over the decades, his firm burgeoned into a prominent market maker on the NASDAQ, handling a significant volume of trades and attracting a wealthy clientele. Madoff's reputation for delivering consistent returns made his investment offerings highly sought after. His ability to provide steady returns, even during volatile market conditions, lured not only individual investors but also large institutions, charities, and prestigious organizations worldwide. However, beneath the facade of this legitimate business lay an elaborate Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors of an estimated $65 billion, making it the largest in history. Madoff's scheme operated by paying returns to older investors using the capital from new investors, rather than generating actual profits through legitimate investments. This deceptive practice created an illusion of a thriving investment strategy, attracting more funds and perpetuating the cycle of deceit. Madoff's firm was intricately structured, involving family members in key roles. His brother Peter served as the senior managing director and chief compliance officer, while his sons, Mark and Andrew, worked in the legitimate trading arm of the business. This family involvement added a layer of trust and credibility, making it even more challenging for outsiders to suspect foul play. Despite numerous warnings and red flags raised by financial analysts and whistleblowers like Harry Markopoulos, regulatory bodies like the SEC failed to uncover the fraud until the financial crisis of 2008 exposed the cracks in his operation. Investigation and legal battles.
When the FBI came in that morning, did you have any idea that your sons had turned this
No,
over?
I had no idea. I wasn't shocked in retrospect, but I had no idea. I don't think he did either, actually.
What was your reaction when you heard him, that it wasn't the boys who turned the father in?
I realized they had to do it.
The global financial crisis of 2008 was the catalyst that led to the exposure of Madoff's Ponzi scheme. As the economic downturn intensified, investors became increasingly wary and began requesting withdrawals en masse. Madoff, unable to sustain the flow of new investments to cover these redemptions, found himself on the brink of insolvency. In December 2008, Madoff was arrested, marking the beginning of a lengthy legal battle to bring him to justice and recover the lost funds. In 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, investment advisor fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, false statements, perjury, making false filings with the SEC, and theft from an employee benefit plan. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison, the maximum sentence allowed. His cooperation with authorities was minimal, hindering efforts to uncover the full extent of the fraud and identify other potential co-conspirators within his operation. The legal battles extended beyond Bernie himself, targeting those who had facilitated or benefited from the scheme. Irving Picard, appointed as the court-appointed trustee, played a pivotal role in the asset recovery process. Picard's task was monumental. He had to meticulously trace and liquidate Madoff's assets, including those of his co-conspirators and beneficiaries who had profited from the scheme. This involved pursuing lawsuits against individuals and institutions that had knowingly or unknowingly benefited from the fraud. The Madoff Victim Fund.
About his victims, Madoff said, quote, "I understand why clients hate me. The gravy train is over. I can live with that. But the average person thinks I robbed widows and orphans. I made wealthy people wealthier." He says he does take full responsibility for his crimes, but he added, "Nobody put a gun to my head. I never planned to do anything wrong. Things just got out of hand."
In the aftermath of Madoff's arrest, the U.S. Department of Justice established the Madoff Victim Fund, MVF, to facilitate the distribution of recovered assets to the victims. Managed by Picard, the fund was designed to systematically compensate the nearly 41,000 victims across 127 countries who had suffered financial devastation due to Madoff's scheme. The MVF began its payout process in 2017, aiming to cover as much of the proven losses as possible. The recovery process was both complex and painstaking. Picard and his team undertook extensive efforts to identify and verify the claims of victims, ensuring that only legitimate and documented losses were compensated. This involved meticulous coordination with legal teams, financial institutions, and international regulators to trace the origin of the funds and establish the extent of the losses. Over the years, the MVF successfully distributed over $4.3 billion, covering approximately 94% of the victims' losses. This high percentage of recovery was unprecedented in financial fraud cases and highlighted the effectiveness of the coordinated legal and financial efforts. The final payout of $131.4 million, marking the 10th and last round of distributions, signifies the culmination of years of dedication and perseverance. This final installment ensured that the remaining victims received the restitution they deserved, healing and restoration.
He has absolutely no remorse. You take a look at the people who have committed suicide as a result of this. While there's physical suicide and there's emotional suicide, none of us will be made whole, ever.
The impact of Bernie Madoff's fraud extended far beyond financial losses, deeply affecting the lives and well-being of thousands of people and organizations. Many victims lost their life savings, leading to financial ruin, broken families, and personal despair. Charities and foundations that had invested with Madoff faced closures, halting their philanthropic endeavors and leaving a void in the communities they served. The emotional and psychological toll on the victims was immense, with some experiencing profound grief and trauma as a result of the scam. But the distribution of the final payouts has brought a measure of relief and hope to many. Recouping 94% of their losses has allowed some victims to rebuild their financial stability and resume their lives with renewed strength. Personal stories of resilience emerge amidst the backdrop of this financial tragedy. People who once faced the brink of financial collapse found a path to recovery, reinvigorated by the support of the Victim Fund. Lessons learned and future safeguards.
The impact of Madoff's scams and his schemes are still felt today.
He says that fraud was a rude awakening to those who were investing money, and he says the lessons learned have helped people be smarter today.
And it also has shaken people's confidence in institutions that they normally wouldn't think about.
The Bernie Madoff scandal exposed significant shortcomings in financial regulation and oversight, prompting a comprehensive re-evaluation of the systems in place to prevent such frauds in the future. In the aftermath of the scandal, regulatory bodies like the SEC faced intense scrutiny for their failure to detect Madoff's scheme despite numerous red flags and warnings. This led to a series of reforms aimed at strengthening the regulatory framework and enhancing the mechanisms for oversight and enforcement. One of the key reforms was the introduction of stricter reporting requirements for investment firms, ensuring greater transparency and accountability. The SEC also increased its focus on whistleblower protections, encouraging people to come forward with information about potential fraud without fear of retaliation. And there was a significant investment in improving the technological capabilities of regulatory bodies, enabling more effective monitoring and analysis of financial activities to identify irregularities promptly. As we reflect on the past 15 years, the final payouts to Bernie Madoff's victims stand as a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice and the unyielding determination to make amends. The story of Madoff's victims is one of resilience, hope, and the enduring quest for justice in the face of adversity. Now it's time to hear from you. How do you think the final payouts to Bernie Madoff's victims will impact the future of financial regulation and investor confidence? Let us know in the comments section below.